Hello, everyone. Welcome. We're going to give a few minutes for everyone to get moved over from the welcome to this session, and we'll be getting started in just a few minutes. All right. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Teresa Abbott. I am one of the Associate Directors of Undergraduate Admissions in the Admissions Office at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. I want to welcome you to the Alumna panel for this Exploring Rensselaer from a Female Perspective Visiting Day. We really hope you enjoyed hearing from Lauren and Kat during the welcome and got a good kind of overview of Rensselaer. As we transition to this panel, we really wanted to highlight some of our recent graduates. So we'll be talking throughout the rest of the event about the opportunities that are available on campus, and you'll have opportunities to connect with current students. But we really wanted to highlight how the education that Rensselaer offers here really prepares students to succeed, to lead, and to change the world. So I'm going to turn it over to three of our amazing alumna to talk a little bit about themselves, what they did while they were on campus, what they have been doing since they graduated. We will then have time for questions. So if you have a specific question, please type it into the chat box. But we'll also have gathered all of the questions that you asked in the registration form, and we'll start with those. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Inez to share a little bit about herself.
I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. I was born in Argentina and came to the US in 2002. And since then, I've lived in a lot of different places in the US. I've lived in Philly, in Troy, of course, RPI. After college, I moved to Portland, then Seattle, where I currently am, and then next up is Boston. I am very basic in my enjoyment, so I like traveling, I like music, hiking, cooking, binging TV, whatever it is. I like to do that. And then I just put a little blurb there that says I feel happy when I'm making a difference, and that's kind of what that's my goal. And whenever I choose things, the school that I went to, the jobs that I chose, the positions that I've had, they've all kind of were driven by that idea of I would like to make a difference. Well, while I was at RPI, yes, of course, I was studying as much as you can study. But in the meantime, I also did some activities outside of school. So I was in the executive board of the union. I was also in UPAC Sound and UPAC Concerts. I also chaired the programming board, so all of the different UPACs. And then a little bit of more of the nerdier side, I TA'd for engineering communications, which is a cool class that most people take as freshmen. And I did that for 4 years. I was also in the Mercer Lab, which is the electronics and computer systems engineering lab. And then I have a little thing there too about RPI. What was my favorite thing about RPI? And I always go back to the camaraderie at RPI, the idea of we're in this together, and the idea that everyone that I met along the way at RPI was there willing to help you, which I think it's hard to find in most places that are very competitive. While RPI is competitive, it's still very collaborative. So I'll go to the next slide. Okay, my time after RPI, I've been out of RPI for about 4 years now. Since then, I started as a lithography process engineer at Intel. So if you've seen Intel ever, the people that wear the bunny suits and are inside the fab, that's what I was doing. I worked on, like I said, lithography tools, which are the ones that are projecting the design onto the wafer and copied the design. Then after that, I moved to Siemens Healthineers. Over here, that's where I am right now as a procurement engineer. And in this role, I am kind of a bridge between engineering and procurement, kind of help with cost reductions, best methods, process procedures, et cetera, et cetera. And then my next role that I'm actually going to be starting in October is I'm going to be moving to Corindus, which is a newly acquired company from Siemens or by Siemens. They are a robotics company. And so I'm going to be working as a commodity manager for them, leading their procurement activities and really helping them to ramp up from starting a startup to like a full-fledged company and industry leader. So a little bit about myself.
Hi, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me. Okay, it turned green. This is great. I'm Cassie Smith. I am from the great state of New Jersey, and I'm currently living in Los Angeles, California. That's where I currently am. I graduated in December with my Bachelor's of Science in Aeronautical Engineering from RPI. It was a great old time there. And I was involved in so many different things beyond just aeronautical engineering, but I was an admissions ambassador. So I got to give tours, and I love answering all questions about why I picked RPI and why you should too. I was involved in LEAP, which is Leadership Educators Advising Peers. This was a group on campus where we were specialized in leading team builders and icebreakers for other organizations on and off of campus. I was a part of the RPI pep band, so there's a picture of me spinning around with a sousaphone at our hockey games. We have D1 men's and women's ice hockey that we would go and play every single game, every single home game, and some away games as well. And sometimes us sousaphones get to have some fun and spin around. And I was a learning assistant, which is an extra program where we help incoming students transition from high school academics to college academics so that no one gets left behind and everyone gets all their questions answered. I have my best college advice on here that I will tell anyone, whatever college you decide on, you have to advocate for yourself. If you want to do something, you go out there and you make it happen. You make it exactly what you want to be because it's your time. Okay, so that's my background. I'm happy to answer any question, but oh, great. Okay, so this is after I graduated. I became a full-time engineer at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California. I interned and co-opted 3 times prior to this full-time job, where I worked on DSOC, which is the Deep Space Optical Communications Instrument, which is on Psyche, a spacecraft going to the asteroid Psyche. I was on a design study one summer, and I also worked on the mechanical team of the Mars helicopter. I am now a mechanical engineer full-time, and I'm currently working on the next Mars mission, which is Mars Sample Return, which is scheduled to launch in 2026 or 2028 to be determined. And my main role is to design, develop, and test spacecraft and hardware for that. So right now I'm working on some technology demonstrations that will hopefully fly on this MSR mission. And these are some pictures of my times throughout the internship. They always do like a college t-shirt day. So this is me with some other RPIers on lab here that a lot of them are now full-time engineers as well. So feel free to ask any questions in the chat or when we open it up at the end of the panel.
Hi, everyone. My name is Risa. I have a background from RPI. I graduated about 3 years ago, I guess almost 4 years ago now in 2017. My original personal background, I actually grew up in New York, so didn't
All right, wonderful. Well, I'm going to ask all of our panelists to broadcast their videos so we can pull them all up, and we're going to turn it over to questions now. I did compile a number of questions that you listed in the registration form and that we kind of have pre-populated, but please feel free to type any questions that you have into the chat box. Just so we can, make sure that we're answering the questions that you're most interested in learning about. It looks like a question did come in. I think geared mostly towards Cassie, because I know you were in the pep band, but anyone else, feel free to jump in to answer this question as well. But the question from Maddie is, how time consuming is the pep band or other instrumental performing arts? I would love to be involved in those activities, but I want to do one of the celebrated programs. How possible?
That's a great question, Maddie. So a lot of the activities on RPI's campus are very much what you put into it. And so the pep band, for instance, is entirely optional. If you want to be involved, you can be involved. You can come to rehearsals and practices, but you don't have to come to anything. Nothing is required or mandatory. It is a club. It's not a class or anything. And that goes for most of the I would say artistic programs. Same with any plays you want to be involved with. Again, it's up to you if you want to audition and how much of a time commitment you can put into your parts. But some other things, there are like orchestral classes that those require a little bit more of a commitment with time, I would say. But I knew many people who were in the pep band who had, dual majors or majored and were also part of, some of the accelerated programs and things. So it's certainly possible. And again, it's all up to you what you want to do.
Great, thank you. And Risa, can you talk a little bit more about the co-terminal program that you were involved in? It was Lauren just dropped a bunch of information about the co-terminal program into the chat box, but maybe just talk a little bit about the program and why you chose to do that program.
So if I can add just like two things as well. I also did the co-term. I think Bryce and I actually graduated the same year. So I did a co-term where I was doing engineering undergrad, and then I knew I wanted to keep doing engineer as a grad, but I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. And the last internship that I did, I was working a lot with like business people and more on like the regulatory side of engineering. And then I kind of got like I kind of might want to do something like that too. And RPI had this really great program that was a mix of like the School of Engineering and the Lally School. So you would have one degree that was, again, just one more year than you would tack on, but you could take classes from the Lally School and also kind of take more classes in the undergrad that you had. So for me, that was great because I was able to take more classes in microelectronics, which is what I wanted to do. But I also took some awesome classes in the business school, like negotiations and business implications, and I don't know, raise up like a bunch of other classes too that were really awesome that I think in engineering you really wouldn't get the chance to do. But that program really allowed me to have those experiences. And then the second thing I wanted to say about that was a lot of people that go to RPI come in with a lot of AP credits to the point where like they could graduate in 3 years. And so I had a lot of friends, like a lot of friends that just tacked on that last year. Like they were going to be at RPI for 4 years anyway. And instead of graduating in 3 years or maybe 3.5, they would stay that extra year or stay the fourth year or fourth and a half and leave RPI with a master's program, which like just off the start, it adds like usually like 10K to your base salary. So I knew I didn't want to go back to school for a master's. I wanted to just get it done.
Yes, thank you both for answering that. Another question came in about, undergraduate research or co-ops and internships that are available. And so I just kind of wanted to pose the question to all three of you. How did your experiences at RPI help you find your first position after graduation? So whether that be an internship, co-op, research that you did, or just other involvement that you had on campus.
I can start. So my first job, and I'll kind of to tie into what I was just saying before, my first job out of college was in the fabs at Intel. I think the number one reason that I got it was because of my experience in we have a small clean room at RPI that if you stay for the master's, I think the grad class, they only allow grad students to do it, but there are a few classes where you can go and make your own little test chip or test wafer. And like number one reason I got the job was because I literally had experience in a clean room, whereas I can't think of a lot of places where you would have access to that.
Twice a year on campus, we have career fairs where over 200 companies come onto campus to recruit specifically for RPI students. And this is for internships, co-ops, and full-time opportunities, where I would say the majority of students do find some type of job post-graduation or whenever they would like one. And so there's many options, and these people, a lot of them are actually RPI alum that come back and try to interview and get to know other students, and they know the classes, so they know what you're talking about, which is really cool. So JPL, which is a center of NASA, actually comes to RPI's campus every fall to recruit for RPI students, and they have an info session. I'm telling you this because it happens every year. I can nearly guarantee it. And then the next day, there's usually on-campus interviews. So there's this massive interview center on campus that a lot of different companies will use, and you can go in and they interview just on campus, super convenient and easy. And that's where majority of people get their summer internships, co-ops, or full-time jobs. And I saw one question about the difference between internship and co-op, and so I figured I'd explain that. A traditional internship is between 10 to 12 weeks, typically in the summer semester, that you would take a job for those 10 to 12 weeks as opposed to a class. A co-op is the same thing, only longer. It's usually more on the scale of 4 to 6 months long, sometimes 6 to 8 months, really. It's anywhere in that range, definitely longer than 12 weeks. And a lot of companies prefer co-ops just because you are there longer, so you get to make more of an impact and you really get to contribute and collaborate within the organization you are. But also a lot of companies will do both internships and co-ops. And so we have a summer arts program, which I'm sure you heard a little bit about, and Teresa and I can fill that in a little bit. I know about it a little bit, and that really opens you up for a co-op where you have a whole semester available during the academic year to go off of campus and get that hands-on experience for like 6 months, which is very valuable. And that's how, my experience at RPI, being there, having that reputation already with JPL, helped me get those internships and then helped me get that full-time job.
Great, thank you. I wanted to ask a question about support on campus and mentorship. Did any of you have a mentor throughout your time at RPI or afterwards? And if so, how did they shape you and help you kind of to the point where you are in your career right now?
I can take that. So I wouldn't say mentor in like when I think mentor, I think like career pathways, and I don't think I had a mentor through RPI. What I, at least from a career perspective, what I did have was like, and I would suggest it to anyone that's starting college, like find some upperclassmen and befriend them, especially the ones that are in the same career path as you or the same education path as you, because that saved me like time, energy, crying sessions, like just having someone that's already done it. Um, it was amazing. I mean, I was a freshman. I met like two people that were juniors in electrical engineering. They were only electrical engineers, so they'd only taken the classes that I was going to be taking. They told me, hey, like make sure you take it with this professor, take it before this class, or take it with this class. And if you need help, like here's my back work. If you need homework help, or I can help you through it, like all that kind of stuff. So no, I wouldn't say a mentor in the career pathways, but definitely in like the school ways. Yes.
My freshman year in the pep band, my first year, I met a 1 year above me, a sophomore trombone player she really took me under her wing, which was just really nice to kind of go in, and I knew someone, and she was there at rehearsals and at games, and she took me under her wing and taught me, oh, this is how the pep band works, and this is also how you can go get Ben and Jerry's on the weekends, and just kind of like someone to look after, and and eventually we ended up living together when she stayed for co-term as well. So we ended up being very good friends. But it was just helpful to have someone who had my back when I didn't know what was going on, especially as from the female perspective. It was really sweet of her to kind of say, oh, this is how things work, and this is how, office hours, and you can go to the study at the student union and different things like that. So I would agree that upperclassmen are always there to support and help, and you can find a lot of them who are always looking for a new friend too.
Awesome. So, kind of thinking back to when you were in high school and starting to explore schools, and starting to think of uh, what you wanted to do with your life and with your career. Do you have any advice for students who are maybe juniors and seniors in high school and looking to go away to college? And if you had to do it all over again, would you do something differently?
Honestly, no, I would not do anything differently. I think I think RPI. I know it's cheesy, but I think RPI was the best decision I ever made. Period.
I would agree. I'm really grateful and so thankful for my time at RPI and for being there and meeting the people I met. And I feel like it's gotten me where I am now. And so I think the only thing I would do differently if I had to do it again was kind of believe a little bit more that it will work out. It gets a little bit stressful. You're like, oh, what do I actually want to do? And everyone already knows where they're going and I don't. And it's okay. This is your process. This is your time. It's going to work out the way it's supposed to work out for you. It might not feel like that in the moment, but really have that faith, because I guarantee it, it's going to come full circle and you'll be happy. So I think that's the best advice I can give.
When you were on campus, did you have a favorite RPI tradition, or what did you do for fun around campus?
Okay. So I was like hyper involved, like so involved. So I was, when I first started in my freshman year, I joined UPAC Sound, which are the people that put up the speakers around campus for whenever there's a show or event or anything. And that kind of exposed me to like all the different types of things that are going on outside of my dorm room on campus. And so through that, I joined the different UPACs that were there. So UPAC is the Union Programming and Activities Committee. So they organize any sort of kind of extracurricular fun thing that you could do on campus that isn't like Greek or something like that. Or like a specific club. So they do concerts, they'll do comedy shows, they put up the movies, and just being really involved in that. Through that I also joined the Union Executive Board, which it's like one of the branches of like the student government in the union. And I was one of the ones that was like representing the performing groups and the multicultural groups. So through that, since I had to represent them in the board and what their needs were, I had to kind of get to know those clubs as well. So I was going to all of their activities and plans and shows that they would do. So like my weekends were either those shows or like a hockey game. And then as I got a little older and like junior year, senior year, grad year, we actually went out and would explore Troy, which when I started was not as nice as it is now, we'll say. I mean, I think like the farmers market was substantial, but it's not like the level that it is now. And you don't have like the shops and restaurants that you have now. So it was really a great opportunity to go and down the hill and explore the city as well. So steps at a time, but yes, what was the question was the favorite tradition though? I guess my favorite tradition was the UPACs, right? Like the UPAC's been around for a long time, and all of the activities that they provided for the school I thought were tremendous.
I had a lot of favorite traditions through the pep band. We are our own tradition of a group. Actually, in 2023, it'll be our 100th anniversary of the pep band. And so they're already planning all the traditions and celebrations we're going to have then. But within there's actually a hockey game every year called Freak Out. It usually takes place in January or February, where a lot of the alumni come back and we all get to watch this hockey game. And there's usually like a little gift and there's some cool prizes and, people are on the ice trying to hit pucks into the nets. And it's just a grand old time, like there's so many pep band alum that come back and everyone's just there for the weekend. And so that would be my favorite thing and fun thing for the campus week, going to pep band, hanging out with people. After rehearsal, we'd often go to brunch on campus or off campus to some of the dining halls or down into the city of Troy to go to the farmers market or to Whistling Kettle. There's so many restaurants we could go on forever of where you can eat because there's many options. And then just being around people. I love the student union too. This is kind of like a unspoken tradition, I would say, is that everyone hangs out in the student union. That's where some people you do study at times, but other times you're just like there to hang out and have lunch and dinner. And I always said when you walk into the student union, you walk in, there's always at least one person you can sit with and talk to. There's always a table of someone you know you can sit down and be like, hey, can I sit here and study? Or can I rant about this? Or can you help me with this homework problem? So I'd say that's one of our main hubs of campus.
One last one that I actually just remembered. We also had every week we had GM Week, which was like a huge week-long event, pretty much. And so you'd always have kind of things going on, and it all led up to like the election, the election of the student council. And there was all clubs would have something going on during the day, or at night, or there'd be like a special movie or a special concert at the end. So that always, like every year, a lot of people put in a lot of work just to make it really fun and exciting, and just to get people out there. Do they still do this? I don't know, but they would give out mugs for like if you graduate, if you went in and voted, and so like people have their collection of mugs, and like if you're like me and like know certain people, you have collection of mugs from the previous years or the following years, which I do. So it's like also kind of like a fun tradition too, like the mug collection.
I would say also we would go to a lot of improv shows. So there's an improv group on campus that would put on their show probably like once a month or so. And they were always just so fun to go to. And they sometimes collaborated with our a cappella group. So they were singing and improv at the same time. It was very impressive and very fun.
Yes, the sounds like you guys had a lot of fun when you were on campus. Um, Going forward, what piece of advice would you give anyone interested in following your footsteps? And going off of that, what would you look for if you were in the position to hire a new graduate from Rensselaer?
I would say the one thing, beyond all the technical stuff that you will have after, getting an engineering or any type of degree, would be like the love for learning and the willingness to learn, right? Like when you're at college, it's a big change. And when you go to get hired after college or even for internships, it's all a big change and you have to learn a lot, even on the job, right? And so that openness and that willingness to say, I'm going to try anything and I'm really interested in this and passionate about that, I'm going to keep exploring it, right? And so just find what makes you really interested and really excited and just go with that, because that's how you know it's the thing you're supposed to do.
Yeah, I would agree with both of those. The well-balanced candidate is incredibly important, because I have done some hiring in my time, and there's like 3 questions that I always ask myself when I review a candidate, or if I'm interviewing a candidate. By the end of it, it's would I want this person to work with me? Would I want this person to work for me? Or would I want to work for this person? And I have to have I have to have yes on all 3 if I'm to feel comfortable hiring that person. As someone that's well balanced means that they are both a good engineer and a good communicator, which is a necessity. Most jobs that you're going to have out of college are going to be team based. They're not going to be individual contributors. So you're going to have the ability to yes, be great at what you're doing, but also connect with people with you, and be able to communicate together as well. So advice, that's my advice for getting a job after. And then advice for following my footsteps. I'm very organized. I plan. I had sorry, as opposed to Reza, like when I started RPI, I had a like a spreadsheet where I had every single semester and every single class that I was going to take each of those semesters. Like I had it all planned out. Some of them I would like switch around based on what I wanted to do or what was available. But I had everything planned out. So if you want to be like me, you can plan too. You can call me and I'll give you. I probably still have it. I'll give you my my spreadsheet.
Awesome, thank you. So we have a few questions that have come in that are kind of geared towards Cassie and aeronautical engineering. If you could just describe a little bit more about your major of aerospace and aeronautical engineering. And then there was a question about, did interning at NASA help you get a job there after graduating? And then if you were to give advice to someone in the mechanical or aerospace engineering programs, would you recommend looking for research or a co-op intern position if you had to kind of choose one or the other?
Okay, so let's start with the easiest question, which is, yes, I think my internships helped me become a full-time employee. As even my boss has always said, all those 3 internships were part of my interview. It was a 1.5 year long interview to see what I'm like, what my work is like, and working with me. And so I think that goes for most industries. They want to interview you while you're interning, right? That's their trial run, if you will. And so it also helps you as the candidate say, do you like it here? Do you want to stay in this industry, stay at this company, and be hired full time, right? People come back from co-ops on RPI's campus and say, not for me, changing my major. It's happened and it's okay, but you have that opportunity to experience that, now rather than later. So it definitely helped me as I got my foot in the door. I made the connections, and I think I showed that I wanted to be there, and they reciprocated that. But so RPI's campus offers, right now, they might be changing this, Teresa can correct me, there's an aeronautical engineering degree. That's like the title of the degree. In the future, there was talks of adding a aerospace engineering degree kind of separate or kind of on top of it. So, it might change. But when I was there just last year, underneath aeronautical engineering, there was 3 different tracks you can study. One of them is fixed wings, that's like airplanes. One of them is rotor wings, that's like helicopters. And the last is space vehicle, so that's like spacecraft and all kind of rocket space kind of stuff. And as you start out, similar to mechanical engineering and nuclear engineering, you kind of take all the same classes at least through sophomore year. Then around junior year, you get to decide which track do you want to go as you take specific 2 or 3 classes for each one. So I took the space track, as I love space, and I did orbital mechanics, and then space vehicle design was kind of my capstone path. But I had other friends who were also aeros who did flight mechanics and then went into fixed wing capstone. And so it depends what your interest is in. Some people do all of it, right? They're like, I want to take helicopter now, and they go for it, which is crazy, but you can do it. And then other people say, technically on a broad terminology outside of RPI, the whole degree or program is called aerospace engineering, and there's aeronautical engineering and astronautical engineering. And astro is more space-based, and aero is more air-based. But RPI kind of combines it into just aeronautical engineering, and you get to pick which one you want. It will not say that on your diploma, right? Mine just says aeronautical, but I focused in space. So it's like kind of a concentration. And the last question about if I recommend research or internships and co-ops, I would say it's kind of up to you of what you want to do with your degree. I always recommend internships and co-ops to make sure this is what you want to do in the industry and see if you like that experience. So far in your life, you've only had an academia experience, right? And even in college, you've only interacted with professors and teachers, and so maybe you haven't had that industry feel. So I would always recommend getting in there, seeing what it's like. Do I like this? Is this for me? And if not, you have research as well, so you can go and stay in the academia world. And then there's also the crossover. A lot of what I do is kind of split between R&D, which is research and development, and industry. So there's little niche pockets everywhere for everyone. But I would always recommend an internship and a co-op, but also people do research too. So it's kind of where you find yourself and what you're passionate and interested in. Okay, I've talked a lot. I hope I answered everything.
Just one thing of the internship stuff. I know like one of the questions that I had when I started was, how do I get an internship, or how do you get a co-op? And while yes, like the career fair can help, what I've found was also very helpful is personal projects. So like I got my first job because I had I used my high school senior project as I made like a small amplifier speaker system, and like I put that on my resume because that was the only sort of work experience that I had outside of school, and it was something to kind of fill up my my resume. And that was like the reason I got my first job, is because I had taken the time outside of school, outside of like, yes, fun things too, but to kind of explore on my own, like what I wanted to do with my degree. And I've heard that from tons of people too. And it is a little bit easier in electrical engineering because it's cheaper to make those sort of things or to test something out, or in computer science as well. I think with aero, it's kind of hard to build an airplane. I don't know, like I've heard, but yes. And same with mechanical engineering and some of the other engineerings where it's a little bit more difficult, but there are ways, and you don't have to complete a project. You just have to kind of do a project. So that would be kind of like a little snippet of, yes, get an internship, but also how do you get that internship?
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. I'm going to start to wrap up unless Inez, Risa, or Cassie have any other anything else they'd like to add before we sign off. But I know we have just a few minutes before you head to your next session. So if you head back to that original email that you were sent just a few hours ago, it will link you to the next session that you signed up for. I did see we did not get to all of the questions in the chat box, and I'm very sorry about that. But hopefully they'll be able to be answered throughout the next few sessions. I know we do have an academic session that will talk about the academics. That session will go more in depth into the co-terminal program. They'll also talk about the ARCH program and different academic opportunities that are available. The admissions and financial aid session will talk about those different opportunities. There is a specific co-op and internship session, a research session, and a student life, campus life session that will be right up next, those three. So hopefully you'll be able to get the rest of your questions answered throughout the other sessions. But I wanted to thank everyone for joining us today, and remind you all to make sure you're following us on social media, especially Instagram. We are very active on Instagram. We're constantly doing takeovers by students, faculty, staff, alumni. So it's definitely a great way to learn about campus and connect with campus. We also have been recording this session, so we'll post it to our admissions YouTube page, so you can go back and rewatch if you missed an answer to a question. But I will give Inez, Risa, and Cassie an opportunity to share any last information they'd like to share with you before we head off. But thank you so much for joining us this evening, and we hope you enjoy the rest of the event.
I'll start. So I just want to say that, just to reiterate, RPI is the best decision that I have ever made because it got me where I am today. I don't think I would have the same opportunities and the same career opportunities specifically that I do if it wasn't for RPI. Post RPI is also very important. The relationships that I had made at RPI and the incredible alumni network is so beneficial. I mean, depending on where you are, like it is kind of a hit or miss on whether or not they recognize RPI. But the ones that do are very impressed, and they view you differently because of it. So I can't recommend it enough. And yeah, I think it. And I thank you guys for having me too. Thank you for asking me to come to this.
I would agree. I really want to go back now. I'm like, oh, I wish I could go back. RPI was, it got me here. And for that, I'm forever grateful. And so thankful for my time there. And I just wish you all good luck as you make the decisions and you learn going forward. And I would say just keep your mind open, learn as much as you can from these sessions, ask questions, definitely interact with the Instagram. I know sometimes they've done like free t-shirt giveaway kind of things. So if you're interested in that, I know it's done in the past. I can't promise anything in the future, but get involved, ask questions, and it'll all work out. Have some faith.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Inez, Risa, and Cassie for being here and sharing your experiences. And I hope everyone else has a great night. Enjoy.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.